Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the weekly webinar. Welcome back. Missed you last week. I hope everybody had a 4th of July that was special, and whatever way that is for you. I enjoyed having a day off and enjoy even more being back with you today. So thanks for joining us. As always, we'll be recording. I remember to press the record button. So this webinar will be available later today for rewatching. If you need closed captioning, look for it's in the more section now on the bottom of my screen. If you click on the button that says more, then there's an option for captions that will come up so you can follow along with that if you need to. And looks like everybody's on mute. Thank you. Although please, especially today, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or make comments, or if you know any good jokes, those are always welcome. So those are our standard housekeeping announcements. Those of you who do the brain booster every week with My Alliance, there was an unintentional brain booster in today's reminder message. I would love to tell you I did it on purpose, but I did not. So I'm especially glad to see you all here, and that is I forgot to change the date in the subject line. And so it said today's webinar was on June 27th. So if you noticed that and thought, maybe we're going back to the future, just know that I didn't catch it. So congratulations on making it here. If you didn't catch it, still, congratulations on making it here. Glad to have you. And stay tuned for Monday's issue of My Alliance with more brain boosters and all kinds of great stuff. With that said, those are all of the announcements for today. So we'll shift over to me introducing the speaker and the topic today, which drumroll is me. Hi, I'm Kelly. I recognize a lot of familiar names and faces on the webinar today. Thank you all so much. And a little about me, you all probably know enough, but in the context of what we're going to talk about today, I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for the KU Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. I've been in that role since December of 2022, so just a little more than a year and a half. That time has really gone by quickly. And as part of that role, I get to do this every Thursday. I get to host the weekly webinar. I get to write the My Alliance newsletters. I get to go out and about in the community and talk about the great work that my colleagues are doing in terms of research and education and support. And most apropos for today's webinar, I get to teach a class called the Family Series. And I first taught the Family Series back in the early 2000s when I was employed at the Alzheimer's Association, Heart of America chapter. And as far as I can remember, the very first time I went to the Family Series, I was teaching one of the sessions. So I recommend that as a way to learn something, is to have to explain it to somebody else. And so over the years, I have been able to participate in the Family Series of the Alzheimer's Association. And when I came on board here at KU, my mentor, friend, colleague, arm twister, Michelle Needens, who many of you I think know, said, I've got a project for you. You're going to do the Family Series again. And what could I say other than, well, sure. So a year ago in July, we presented the Family Series. We did it in person here at our offices in Fairway, Kansas. And I like to think it went pretty well. There are at least a couple of you on this webinar who were there, and we're such a great audience. Thank you for letting me practice on you. And so it went so well that we decided that we will do it again. And wouldn't you know it, 1 week from yesterday, it's coming back. And we will be doing 4 sessions. That reminds me, I have some slides to show you, so hang on. Let me share my screen so you can have some visual additions here. Okay, so the Family Series is starting up again next Wednesday. We'll meet every Wednesday, starting July 17th and going through August 7th. So the 17th, 24th, 31st, and August 7th. It will be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that is Central Time. And we will be offering the Family Series in 2 different ways this year. This is new. We will meet in person at the Kansas City, Missouri Public Library at the downtown branch. That's the one that has the wonderful garage with the giant books. It's worth it to just go see that in person if you haven't. I've seen it many, many times, and it's so impressive to me as a book lover and a library fan. And I could never call myself any sort of architect, but I love the mind that came up with that. And then envisioned it and then built it as homage to great writing and the joy of reading. So it's at that library, which is downtown on 10th Street. It's 14 West 10th Street, which is just west and Main Street. And if that is making anybody feel trepidatious about going downtown, don't. It's very easy to get to, very easy to find. I'm going to come back to this slide in just a moment. The parking we've arranged, the library has been very generous. Nobody will have to pay for parking. You'll get to park in that library with the giant books, get a parking ticket, bring it inside, and they will validate it so that when you leave each week, you won't have to pay anything whatsoever for parking, and it should be very easy. There's plenty of parking, and the garage is right across the street from the library. Also, if you haven't ever ridden the streetcar in downtown Kansas City, that could be another fun thing to do. You can park lots of places. You can park at the library. You can hop on the streetcar and ride it to the end and back. Just leave yourself time to come to the family series. So that's another fun option. So I wanted to resolve if anybody was feeling like overwhelmed by the idea of going downtown to the library, don't. It's going to be super easy and super simple. That being said, we know that asking you to come to something 4 weeks in a row on a Wednesday afternoon in summer might be a lot. So we are also, I'm going to change my screen here, going to offer the family series on Zoom for the very first time. You have to know that back in the olden days of 2001, Zoom did not exist. I'm not sure PowerPoint really existed. And I don't remember how I presented the family series without PowerPoint. It was probably just me running my mouth, and maybe I had some copies that I handed out, but I didn't have fun pictures and images and a PowerPoint screen. So look at how technology really helps us to move forward. So in addition, we didn't have Zoom back in 2001. So if you wanted to attend the family series, you just had to get out of your house and come, or just hear about it. Those were the only options. So we're very happy that we now have technology that will support Zoom, so that if you can't come in person, or if you don't want to, but mostly if you can't come in person, you can join us online. If you can get on the weekly webinar, you can get on the Zoom for the family series. It will be the same process. I see somebody chatting. Oh, Renee, thanks. I'll pay you later. Renee says I'm even more wonderful in person. Well, I'm even brighter anyway in terms of my colors. I've already picked out what outfit I'm going to wear for the first session, and I'm so excited about it. But yes, I agree with Renee. Please come in person. I mean, I'm biased, but experiencing the family series in person really, I think, is better than being on Zoom, because not only do you get to meet me, you get to meet the other people that are there. You get to feel that sense of, oh, it's not just me. I'm not alone in this. I feel some support. So there's the value of that. I also will have some handouts that I'll be giving to the people that come in person, some things to take home to support caregivers. I also will have snacks, but only for the people that come in person. I cannot provide snacks for the Zoom people as much as I would love to. So there are a few incentives. Also, besides that cool library garage, the room where we will be at the library for 4 weeks is in the Hellsberg Auditorium on the very top level of the library. Some of you may be familiar with the Hellsberg name because besides naming rooms at the library after themselves, they also have a company called Hellsberg Diamonds. Do I need to say more? I'm not giving away diamonds, but the Hellsberg Auditorium at the library is a lovely place. It's a great room for presentations. And so that will be. for these 4 Wednesdays that you can see on your screen. And you can see it does say, for the best experience, we strongly encourage you to attend in person. This does not mean that if you are not attending in person, it won't be a great experience. I think it still will be, because we will be on Zoom. And the way it's set up, as I understand it, is that I will be the only person you see on camera. So if anybody's thinking, I'm gonna come in person, but if it's going to be recorded, I don't want anybody to see me. Don't worry. I will be the only person on camera. And then you will also be able to see the slides that I use to present the information. So it'll be a lot like participating in the weekly webinar on Zoom. You will be able to use the chat feature. I will try to watch that as best as I can. My colleague, Tina Lewandowski, will be on Zoom also to help manage questions and tech support and everything. So we'll see how it goes. This is the first time we've ever done the family series as a hybrid event. So I've got a little bit of uncertainty, but I think it's going to be really great. We also will be recording, so that if you aren't coming in person and you can't make it live on Zoom, we will be recording. And I have a plan for how we're going to release each recording. And I think ultimately we'll put it on our YouTube channel also. So it will be accessible, even if you can't make it exactly in those on those days. And also, the registrations have been coming in. It's been really exciting to see who's going to join us. And on the registration form, we've asked for a bit of information, your name, of course, and your email, so we can get you all the details. And we've also asked for people's zip codes. And the reason we ask for zip codes is we'd like to know kind of what our reach is. We'd like to know where we're reaching people. So most people, of course, that have registered are from the Kansas City area, but we have at least 2 people from Texas who have signed up, 2 from New Mexico, and 1 from Utah. And I think that's the power of Zoom and technology, is that we know Alzheimer's disease reaches people all around the world, everywhere. You don't have to just be in Kansas or Missouri to have a concern about dementia. So it's so exciting that we can welcome folks from other places to join us. So that reminds me to tell you all, if you have a family member, a friend, somebody that you know that is somewhere else who might be interested in this program, if they can get on Zoom at 4 o'clock Central or whatever time it is, wherever they might be, please encourage them to sign up for this program. And I will, before we're finished, drop the registration link in the chat. Please encourage anybody to participate, because the information that I'll share with you is going to be true no matter where you are, with a few exceptions. On the last session, which is called How Do I Keep Doing This?, we'll talk about some community resources. And those are probably going to be pretty heavily biased toward what I know is available in Kansas City and in Kansas and Missouri. But I also believe I can give some good guidance on, I'll look up some things for Texas, Utah, and New Mexico, since I know those 3 states will be represented. But we'll also find out resources for other places. So I strongly encourage everybody to spread the word, and we'd love to have whoever can participate. So that being said, I'm going to go to the next slide and give you just a little more about what will happen in each session. I'm not going to tell you everything, because I need you to have an incentive to show up. That's not just snacks in the library. So our first session, which is next Wednesday, we will be talking about helping you to understand. This will be an overview of dementia, and we'll talk about the things that are in the boxes on your screen here. What is Alzheimer's disease? What is dementia? What is the difference between them? We'll talk about warning signs of Alzheimer's disease, and that you all have, those of you who have watched the webinar for a while know that I tend to have a pretty enthusiastic personality. Warning signs of Alzheimer's disease is sounds a little more sinister than I really mean it to. But what I'm going to describe is things you should be looking out for in your loved one, in yourselves, in anybody that might indicate some further analysis, diagnosis, investigation might be warranted. So we're going to look at the things that you should pay attention to, even if it's not Alzheimer's disease, just in terms of our brain health and our quality of life, and making sure we are doing everything we need to do for good self-care. After that, or in addition to that, we'll talk about who gets Alzheimer's disease. We'll talk about what populations it occurs in, spoiler, all of them. We'll talk about why some populations are at more risk than others and what we are doing about that in terms of research. We'll talk about risk factors. There are risk factors for Alzheimer's disease over which we have some control, and we'll talk about what we can do about that. And some risk factors over which we have little to no control, and we'll also talk about how we can handle that. We'll talk about the diagnostic process. We'll talk about treatment, including the latest about the newest drug that the FDA has approved for Alzheimer's disease. That's been very recently released. It is called donanemab. Some of you who have known me for a while have heard my theory about how they make up names for medications, and that is they get Scrabble tiles and they put them in a bag and they just reach in until they get 7 or 12 letters, and they make a word, and that's the truth. You heard it here first from the KUADRC. That is how they come up with names for these drugs. The brand name for the new drug is Kisunla. I think I'm saying that correctly. Kisunla. And the generic name for it is donanemab. So we'll talk about that drug and others, and we'll end up talking about what we know in terms of possible cure and prevention of dementia. So that will be the first session. And I want to make sure I say to everybody that you can attend any of the sessions, all of the sessions, some of the sessions, and that goes for whether you're attending in person. Remember, there's going to be snacks, or if you're on Zoom. You can come and go as you want to. I am going to take attendance just so we know how many people are coming, but there's no requirement to attend all the sessions, although I do encourage you to attend all of the sessions. All right, so the second week, then we will talk about why are they acting this way? And this will be a conversation that focuses on behavior, communication, and all the ins and outs of that. Maybe not all of them, but many of the ins and outs of that. We all tend to think about Alzheimer's disease. First thing comes to mind is forgetfulness, memory loss, and that is certainly an important part of this disease process. But it goes much, it can be much more intense than that. And we see changes in behavior, personality, ability to communicate, which includes speaking, communication, hearing communication, responding to communication. And so we'll dive into what that looks like and some strategies for what family members can do. By the way, this class is called the Family Series. It is designed for people who are caring for a family member, however you define family, whether that's your partner or spouse, your parents, your grandparent, your uncle, your aunt, your nephew, your cousin, your neighbor, your church member, whatever. If you call them family and you care about what's happening to them, then you are a family caregiver. So we're going to focus on those kinds of caregivers. We are also more than happy for healthcare professionals to join us. So physicians, nurses, social workers, anybody that's got an interest in this topic is welcome to join us. Over the course of time that I have presented the Family Series, I have been asked by people interested in the program whether people who are experiencing cognitive change themselves are able to attend the program. And my response to that is to toss that ball right back to you and tell you that that's a decision I want you to make with your loved one. The short answer is yes. Anybody who wants to come to the Family Series is welcome. Know that I will be very transparent and very honest, especially in this session and, well, all sessions, but especially this one and the next one that talks about activities and the final one that talks about feelings, including grief and guilt. So you and your loved one may want to talk together about whether that's something they want to be in the room for, whether you want them to be in the room for. And I don't mean to say they or them as though we are othering people. But I just want to make sure people know that these classes are going to be pretty clear, I hope, about what happens as part of this disease process. So keep that in mind. consider that maybe participating on Zoom might be a better choice for some people. Participating in person might be a better choice. I'm going to leave that all up to you. Everybody is welcome. Okay. And so that's session 2. And then session 3, they just sit around all day. And we are going to talk about how that can be both a blessing and a challenge. There will be times in your caregiving role where you think, oh my goodness, they have nothing to do. They seem bored. They seem like there's nothing going on, and that sounds horrible, and I don't know what to do. So we will talk about some activities that will be meaningful for people. We'll also talk about how you may long for the day when they would just sit around all day and not be so active or inquisitive or overwhelming for you. And both of those things are possible. Both of those things are valid. It is okay to feel frustrated and relieved at any situation. So in session 3, we'll talk about activities that are useful both for people experiencing cognitive change as well as for caregivers. And then the final session, how do I keep doing this? And we will talk about feelings. We'll talk about feeling guilty and all the ways that manifests. We'll talk about grief. Grief is a pretty prominent emotion as part of the caregiving process. It is also a part of the process for people who are experiencing cognitive change. There's grief about what I wanted my life to look like and what it actually looks like and everything that goes along with that. So we'll talk about how to manage those feelings. We'll talk about some good stuff too. We will, I think, have a lot of laughs in this class. There probably will be some tears also, but I've got my dad jokes and my puns ready for everybody. So I think we'll have a good time together. We'll talk about advice, what works, what doesn't work, what's helpful. We'll talk about ways to make sure we take care of ourselves. And again, as I mentioned before, we'll talk about community resources. Probably most of what I know will be more locally focused, but I will do my best, especially if you might let me know ahead of time that you're from somewhere that is not Kansas City or Kansas or Missouri, and I can see what I can find out about what's available for you. And this is my reminder to remind everybody how lucky you are to be in the coverage area of the KU ADRC, one of just 33 such centers in the entire country. So however you came to be a part of the ADRC, count yourselves lucky, because it is a rare and magical thing indeed to have access to an ADRC. Okay, that was my shameless plug for why the ADRC is great. And then we'll close out by talking about next steps. So 4 weeks together of either Zooming with me or being in the room with me or watching the recording with me will be a lot. I think it will be useful. And then we'll talk about what do I do next? And all of this was really helpful, but now what do I do with it? So we'll have some time to process that and to think about what you can do on your next journey. So those are the 4 sessions that we will do. Oh, I don't want to go to that next slide. Just check the chat, make sure nobody has a burning question. I'm going to pause for a moment in the chat the link to register for the family series. So if you need that, you can do that. Just click on that link and sign yourselves up. Some of you, I recognize your names on here. You've already signed up. Thank you. When you sign up, you get an automatic email that says, hey, we got your registration. Thanks. And I'll be emailing you a few days before the class starts to tell you all the logistical stuff and to share the Zoom link. So I'm tentatively going to do that tomorrow, Friday the 12th. So watch your email over the next couple of days, especially those of you who are signing up to come on Zoom. I promise I will send you the Zoom link, I think tomorrow and certainly by Monday. Okay, so make sure you take a look at that and feel free to join us. So I hope everybody can see that link in the chat. We have, according to my clock, about 6 minutes left. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because when I share my screen, I can only see me and I can only see what I'm sharing, and I prefer to see you. Thank you. Hi, David, for having your camera on, your face on. No one should feel required or obligated to turn your camera on. It just is weird to sort of be talking to myself. So, thank you. Hi, everyone. So that was a lot. And I hope that it was encouraging to anybody who is sort of on the fence about coming to the family series. The information, and I've taught the class for many years, the information is somewhat consistent, by which I mean what we know about Alzheimer's disease over the last 20 years is pretty consistent, although we've learned a lot over the last generation. So if anybody is on here besides Renee, hope I can say that, Renee, who came to the family series last year, and you're thinking, do I really need to go to that again? I will say there's certainly a lot of new things we've learned over the last year. So feel free to come again if you like. If you've never been to it, I absolutely recommend that you come, whether it's in person or on Zoom, or 6 months from now you're watching online. Okay. So I definitely recommend it no matter what your situation is. And again, no matter who you're caring for, whether you're a professional caregiver, if you live in Utah and you just want to be on Zoom, whatever. This class is for anybody who can make it. I also will say that after we finish this 4-week session this time, I'm pretty certain we won't offer again until 2025. So, I mean, not to make anybody feel urgent or anything, but this is your chance for 2024. I would love to do it more often, but my capacity is really once a year. Although now that we're going to record it this time around, it may be, it'll be available. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know what that recording is going to be like. The library has a cool system called the OWL, OWL, like a bird. And anybody who knows me, you have to know that freaks me right out. I am terrified of birds. There are 2 birds in life that I can handle. One is the jayhawk for obvious reasons. And 2 is Big Bird on Sesame Street, because of course, any other bird anywhere freaks me out. Why am I telling you this? Because the system that is recording the webinar at the library is called the OWL. And I was asking the librarian, so how does this work? Do I need to stand in one position, which is going to be hard for me? Or what do I do, so that the people on Zoom will be able to see at least some of this? And he says, oh, and he doesn't know about my bird phobia yet. He says, oh, it's really cool. It's a system called the OWL, and the owl just follows you around the room. I mean, you don't even know how close I was, people, to saying, never mind, we're not doing this. But I'm doing it for you. So I'm really hoping he didn't literally mean a bird is going to be flying around the room, because I will not be able to handle that. I think he meant it's some kind of sophisticated technology where the camera watches you, because he told me I can just do my thing and the owl will pick me up. Listen, hopefully I can get down there and practice at least once before, so I can come across as very calm and easygoing next Wednesday. But anyway, so the owl should be able to pick me up. You'll definitely be able to hear, you'll be able to use the chat, and we'll see how it goes. And after the first session, I will make whatever adjustments I need to, so that subsequent sessions will be meaningful. But thanks for letting me practice on you. Okay, so 2 minutes left. The remaining slides I was going to share were about our cognitive care network here at the ADRC. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's our team of social workers, dementia specialists, navigators who, when you've been seen in the KU Memory Clinic and need some further guidance after getting a diagnosis, that team comes along and is really fantastic. That's the team that Michelle Needens is part of. Lots of folks who were in our Why movie were participants in the Cognitive Care Network. And so it's really, really a great program that we have for our memory clinic patients. So just know that that's a resource that's available to everybody. And there is typically, for those of you who get the version of our newsletter that's for people experiencing cognitive change, there's always information in there about how to connect to the Cognitive Care Network. Or if you don't get that version and you want to know about the CCN, feel free to send an email to myalliance@kumc.edu, and I'll be happy to get that to you. So 2:29. This may be a record breaker for me. I'm usually way past the ending bell. So I will pause and ask if anybody has any questions, or is there anything you were hoping to hear about that I didn't get to today? If so, feel free to speak up, unmute yourself, and let me know. While you're pondering that, I will tell you that next week on the webinar, we will have Dr. Heather Wilkins back with us. Last month, she talked about metformin and Alzheimer's. This month, she'll be back to talk with us about biomarkers and Alzheimer's disease. And I won't give away too much, mostly because she's going to be better at that than I will in terms of what that means. But biomarkers are some of the we have some more information about biomarkers and Alzheimer's than we did 20 years ago. And we are understanding how biomarkers have an effect on diagnosis, detection, treatment, and eventual prevention and cure of Alzheimer's disease. So Dr. Wilkins' research focuses pretty prominently on biomarkers. So she'll be with us to talk about that. And biomarkers are really very instrumental in the new drugs that we have for Alzheimer's disease. So this is a timely topic. So join us next Thursday for the webinar with Dr. Wilkins. Join us next Wednesday for the family series. Those of you who knew about the family series last year might remember that it was on Thursdays. So I had the webinar at 2 and the family series at 4. And let me tell you, I changed that quick, fast, and hurry for this year so I could be at my best for both events. So Wednesdays and Thursdays. So by Fridays of every week, your girl is going to be done. But I'm going to have a great time doing it. I see a few registrations coming in. I'm so glad I've convinced at least some people. So keep up the registration process. If you don't feel like signing up ahead of time, but you want to show up anyway, I will let you in. You can come in person. If you don't register ahead of time and you want to do Zoom, I can't help you because you won't have the link. So there's a plug for registration in advance. Show up at the library or email us or sign up with the registration form, and we'll be glad to have you. Thank you, David. David says there's a great article on that features our friend and our leader, Dr. Jeff Burns, in the June issue of Brain and Life. Well, I will track that down and see if I can't link to it in the My Alliance newsletter. Thank you. All right, now see, I've lived up to my normal behavior. It's 2:32. So some of you have said, okay, enough, and you won't hear this because you've left. But those of you who have stayed, thank you. And I hope to see some of you either in person or on Zoom next Wednesday. I hope to see all of you on the webinar next Thursday with Dr. Wilkins. Everybody have a great week. And the next time we have a Thursday off for the webinar won't be until Thanksgiving, and that's how it should be. So we are on for the rest of the year, at least until November. So take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. See, pause.
Thank you.
You're welcome.